Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, but STB engineering tested this firmware for months. 1/3. But STB engineering tested this firmware for months. 2/3. But STB engineering tested this firmware for months. 3/3. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. But STB engineering tested this firmware for months. 1/3. Part 2, Legacy Hardware Part 3, v.2.206.e. Part 1, 463 MHz. I've recently covered how underfunded and swamped the engineering team taking care of our set-top boxes is, and what kind of delays this can lead to. Unfortunately, that is nothing compared to the damage that arise almost every time they try to push a major update. As promised in the comments, I'm following up with a story about that. A while back, the TV Product Director, TVPD, started giving senior staff only a week's heads up before major firmware updates, because when we used to get a month's notification, word would get out and too many frontline staff would schedule vacations to avoid being there dealing with the fallout. So, one of the surest ways to know the next week is going to be interesting is this kind of email. TVPD attention senior staff, major STB firmware rollout in 3 waves next week. Change controls scheduled for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2:30 to 6 a.m. Update has been tested for months, fixes vast majority of known issues, see attached specs and fix list. Related network tickets will be marked as tentatively resolved. Keep me updated with any issues as they arise and ensure messages present for customers calling on these nights. We'll be in senior staff's live chat next week. Also need after-action reports for engineering if any unusual spike in calls. Have a great weekend. And everyone's weekend is thus ruined. Well, not quite, but let's say there's an audible moan as we anticipate the next week's excitement. The fix list looks awesome, but we know every of these fixes that will actually work will cause a new issue. 3 waves rolling out. Let's make this a 3-part story. And so, come Monday early in the morning, cable boxes start resetting across the nation, little blinking lights on their front panels indicating impending doom, update downloading. I get to work in the morning, and casually glance at the waiting queues as I stir honey in my oversized coffee. To my mild astonishment, while there's of course way more TV calls than usual, there's no full-blown apocalypse in progress. Yet. I get upstairs to my desk where my colleagues are already busily going through tickets to find evidence of improvements, but mainly of new problems. The early birds on the team got there at 5:30 and already diagnosed that we have more boxes rebooting than usual, and of course it's those tagged for the first wave that are going down. TVPD, live chat guys, what's with the resets? The internal test group reported no stability issues. Amelia, I've combed through the last 2 hours worth of frontline reset tickets. There's a QAM that keeps popping up. I'm looking at the same thing as her. I select a channel on QAM 463, and my HD PVR reboots. Frank, live chat, I think we have it. Any updated box that connects on 463 MHz reboots on the spot. Boss, live chat, the hell. What do we have on 463 MHz? Oh. It's an HD Sports QAM. /u/ByteWave, live chat, HD Sports channel. This is going to get a lot worse. We need logistics to clear unlimited overtime for the front line during prime time. I'll start putting up messages now. Boss, hey, unlimited overtime? Why do you think we'll need so much? /u/ByteWave, prepare for the part that will hurt. NHL Series match at 7. Toronto/Montreal. Boss, F*******. TVPD, live chat okay, engineering says it can't be fixed live, we'll have a fix before the next wave. My shift is supposed to end at 5, but I accept exactly 2 hours of overtime, because I don't want to be there anymore at 7. I stay a few minutes after logging out just to see the calls waiting spiking up like crazy. Calls waiting internet 13, TV 417, landlines 0, mobiles 22, senior line 18. And of course each of these 417 geniuses just heard my message clearly explaining the issue, but hey, hockey isn't on, the cable box keeps rebooting, they're paying for a service, and they want to scream at a technician. And most of the 18 employees holding to speak to my lucky colleagues? Subcontractors who likely failed to read the ticker properly, or have at best a vague recollection of what a QAM even is, or how this relates to hockey. From experience, there's probably one who is from North Africa and wants us to explain what hockey is. /u/bitewave, hang in there, evening shift. I sigh as I leave, knowing this is just the first wave, and they'll be urgently messing with the firmware before the next one. What could possibly go wrong? But STB engineering tested this firmware for months. 2/3. Part 1, 463 MHz. Part 3, v.2.206.e. Part 2, Legacy Hardware. Wednesday morning, I feel like it really should be at least Thursday by now. Before I even get out of bed, first order of business is to open my TV and go to one of the sports channels on Monday's buggy QAM, because if it's still acting up, well, I could use a sick day. But no, it's fine. I don't let this give me false hopes though, I'm tempered by years of experience. A glance at the board as I walk in, and the low triple-digit TV calls waiting comforts me that I haven't just grown overly cynical. I walk across a few frontline cubicles rows before heading upstairs, and I hear reassuring things like, "No, ma'am, we don't know if they're lost for good yet." And, "No, it's not just so you have to get the latest model, it's just a bug with the older ones, our engineers will fix it." Today's CC was focused on all the older cable boxes, who are also getting updated, but will be as usual running a different version of the new firmware. One set of known bugs would be way too easy to keep track of, where would the fun be in that? I walk up to our floor, where I see a couple colleagues have switched all the lab sources to old gen boxes and are playing with old remotes. /u/bitewave, morning Frank. What's the damage so far? Frank, all older PVRs, black screens on all existing recordings prior to the new load, they can only see the titles of their old recordings. Can make new ones though. /u/bitewave, thanks. Well, I'm sure once they know they can make new ones, the customers won't mind at all. I smirk as I log on. I glance at my mail and the chat logs, and see wonderful sentences like, "Resources for testing on legacy hardware are always more limited." There's legacy and then there's legacy. About half of our fleet of PVRs are still old gen hardware. At the price we're selling them, customers are slow to upgrade. All disks are showing up as empty or below 1% use, but it doesn't mean the data has actually been wiped. Engineering should be able to fix it. Please ask customers not to delete their blank recordings, otherwise they'll be lost for good for sure. And this gem. TV Product Director, TVPD. I have confirmation there were actually full tests on old gen PVRs. It's just that the internal test group were all given brand new ones. Legacy hardware, and every tester was given a shiny new old box with nothing on it? Right. I start manning the phones, and on my first very call the agent tells me the customer already deleted the recordings because they were giving him black screens. /u/bitewave, yeah, I think we'll need to do something about that. He's certainly not the only one. It's just 9 a.m., but I'm sure people are making the same mistake everywhere. I have an idea. Your call is important to you, please hold. /u/bitewave, live chat. Customers are deleting those apparently lost recordings or formatting their disks already. From the DNCS, networks can put up a temporary PVR error anytime a legacy PVR tries to access its recordings list. Then they won't be able to delete them, or get to the menu to format the disk. TVPD, live chat, yeah, but that may actually increase the calls. Maybe, I'll get back to you. Stefan, live chat, I'm done putting up the phone warning messages. I also talked to agents whose customers already formatted their PVR. One of them thought he'd actually get them back this way. Amelia, I have genius agent at Camel Telecom who told theirs to do it despite the opposite being written in bold in the ticker. For over an hour of bureaucratic paralysis, nothing really happens. Senior staff agree we should have a message put on the boxes, but you can tell TVPD, well known to religiously cover his ass, is carefully weighting the minor impact of a possible small increase in calls versus future complaints from customers who'll have lost all their stuff. Then he finally asks us to invite a guy from Networks to our chat room. Networks, live chat, 10:20 a.m., so yeah, I can have an error message up whenever a customer tries to access their list. What do you want it to say? TVPD, live chat, same thing as the one we put in the phone systems, that we apologize for the inconvenience, not to delete recordings that appear not to be working, and that our engineers will work to allow a swift recovery of the apparently missing data, and that disks showing 1% use are not actually empty. Networks, live chat, yeah, these dinosaurs can display custom emergency messages but 140 chars maximum. After a few attempts we creatively managed to come up with a tweet-sized version of the gist of that clocks in at 139. Within a few minutes it's up, and we can get it from the lab. Over the next hours, we notice calls waiting actually decreasing even during lunchtime. I look at Frontline's tickets quite a bit, seeing hints of new minor problems that are low volume enough to avoid attention for now. There's some tickets complaining about occasional split-second gray screens since Monday, that's new. Seems a handful of older boxes were bricked by the update this morning. Many warranty complaints. No customer likes being told his out-of-warranty box just happened to die during a firmware rollout. I update my boss, who then asks me to work up a list. Typically they end up with discounted refurbished current hardware when this happens. TVPD, live chat. We're now confident we can have this resolved by Friday for recordings that haven't been manually deleted, but we need to roll out firmwares again. Thank you for your hard work all. /u/bytewave, live chat. Are we delaying the third wave of the rollout to Monday, then, or do 2 major waves? On a Friday? TVPD, live chat. We just need to update the PVRs, 2.206.d to 2.206.e. That's not a big enough change to push back the third CC for now. If there is any change, Networks will update me and you'll be the firsts to know. Frank, wait, did he just imply that we'll have 2 different loads out on legacy hardware now? Yes. Yes, he did. But STB engineering tested this firmware for months. 3/3. Part 1, 463 MHz. Part 3, v.2.206.e. Thank God it's Friday sums up how I felt when I woke up that morning. Major change controls were carried out during the night. All old Gen STBs received v.2.206.e overnight, which was meant to fix the issue we faced Wednesday, and the last batch of new Gen STBs were getting v.3.205.f. The firmware we were rolling out all week on new gen hardware, minus the 463 MHz issue. The attention was focused on the latter. Nobody really expected more issues with the older hardware, which enjoyed a more stable, more mature firmware. But while v.3.205.f was now performing acceptably on our new hardware, minus some new gray screen microcuts, we were nowhere near the end of our problems with v.2.206.e, which had been deployed overnight on all our old gen PVRs as a fix. I walk in at 9 a.m. again, and this time it's not so much panicked field agents that I see, it's panicked managers. Triple-digit TV calls waiting again. I walk up to senior staff's floor, and lo and behold, the TV product director himself, TVPD, is sitting with my boss and a lady I had met only twice. Sexy business attire as always, as you can expect from mid-level management at legal. I sigh and ask a coworker for a heads up. /u/bytewave, someone came down from upstairs. Gonna need a sit rep on today's snafu. Amelia, ugh, I envy you for starting so late, it's 9 a.m., they've been riding our asses to figure it out. 3.2 rolled out okay. It's 2.2, D/E, the PVRs from Wednesday again. We have over mid-single digit bricks. I pause for a second. /u/bytewave, bricks? You don't just mean wiped drives, do you? She just stares at me like I'm a moron, and rightfully so. We've been working together a long time. Nobody on senior staff says bricked unless it means bricked. /u/bytewave, what the F? Amelia, they screwed up the fix somehow. Most of the old PVRs which weren't tampered with got their old recordings back, but we have over 60 times the usual brick rate for a firmware update. Most haven't called it in yet, but Diagram Tool suggests something over 6% down versus 1 a.m. prior to the CC. Same story with every caller. We've shut down unrelated same-day road tech appointments already. All they'll be doing today is replace dead boxes and argue over warranties. Sad to say, there are always a few lost cable boxes when we update old gen hardware, but this is off the charts. I'm running the math mentally, we're talking many thousands of bricked PVRs, all of which cost quite a bit of money, old gen or not. A colleague tries to cheer us up. Stefan, a small step for legal but a giant leap for upgrading obsolete hardware? That was clearly the only upside that day. I sit down at my desk, catching up on the chat logs and the emails. Behind me I hear the discussion between the mid-level brass. Look, we can't just hand out that many refurbs, we just don't have them. Once we know what went wrong, maybe we can. Doesn't matter who screwed up, this is way outside the margin of error. I don't want to hang someone, I want a technical solution. There ain't technical solutions to bricked boxes, they're just gone. Instead of logging into the lines, I just start pulling out ticket logs and comparing monitoring data for every bricked box I find. The hell with the red lines. Frank, you know, I have several PVRs that updated to v.2.206.e just fine. We have 3 just here in the lab. /u/bytewave, 3? There's 4 of them. Are you saying one of our lab boxes bricked? Frank, yeah, he says as he puts it on source this one is just dead. I had it rest aged, tried to flash it, no dice. /u/bytewave, anyone do anything with on this one Wednesday? Frank, hell yeah. This is the one we were testing new recordings with. I'm looking for a correlation since I got in here. /u/bytewave, you do remember how old gen PVRs were showing 1% use even if the disks were full? A few of us start to investigate that angle. The lines over at network are red, engineering can't bother with having a decent call system, so there's just ring busy. Stefan, I got the full logs prior to tonight on our dead box. We tried to record a couple hours worth of HD Wednesday. /u/bytewave, I'm waiting on networks. We need confirmations, but we already knew disks were misreporting since the last CC. What if the fix caused problems with boxes close to capacity that got new recordings over the last 48? Thankfully, nobody needs to cover their asses at networks. They're union just like us, and I get my answer within 2 minutes. They don't have specifics on the changes engineering pushed through what we came to call .e, v.2.206.d versus v.2.206.e, but they immediately confirm that boxes close to high capacity that tried to record anything new between early Wednesday and the early Friday updated appear to be bricked, all with logs showing they were fine prior to 2:30 a.m. /u/bytewave, hey guys, sorry to interrupt the power meeting, but this appears to be fallout from Wednesday. People who tried to record on close to full PVRs in the meantime are bricked. Something in the .e firmware killed them dead. Boss. TVPD. Mid-level legal MILF. TVPD, but STB engineering tested this firmware for months. This is way outside the margin of error. /u/bytewave, sure, but they tested .e for about 36 hours at most. Boss, we'll need confirmation, but mid-level legal, yeah, then I'll get my people on it. We need to control the damage ASAP. It went very fast from there. In their haste to fix the HDD issues we faced on Wednesday, engineering didn't bother to test what would happen to older STBs close to capacity that had tried to save new content since, and their quick fix was so bad that it didn't just damage drives, it killed these STBs outright. Given how close I am to my boss desk, I spent hours hearing arguments about policy. Legal wanted a strict policy where only customers who threatened to sue or disconnect would be reimbursed. TVPD wanted us to do our usual fix it for those who complain thing, and my boss wanted recall to preemptively address the problem. This is why I'm happy as a union employee. It's ridiculous how far some of them are willing to go to ignore the customer whenever there are real costs in play. Ultimately, tons of old gen PVRs died for good that day. There was no firmware fix to correct things anymore. In the haste to correct the last issue, they finally managed to brick an insane amount of boxes. The only silver lining was that the costs of this thing led the company to reevaluate the way rolled out firmwares, leading to some lasting improvements. I was just happy when my shift ended. I was way overdue for the weekend. After dinner that night, my team met at our usual bar, and we drank and partied. Only way to finish a week like this. At one point, one of us ordered shooters for everyone and had a toast to fallen hardware. Hardly gets geekier than this, but I love them all. Just one more horrible rollout week we powered through as a team to go down in our history. All of Bytewave's tales on TFTS.